Let's take a peek here. Woohoo! Where's the chickens?
I know, that's what I'm saying. They're going crazy right now.
All the dogs are coming. That means.
So this is our composting operation here. We are following the biodynamic practices, and for those who aren't familiar with that, it's a system of agriculture introduced by a man named Rudolf Steiner. Steiner's the same guy that introduced Waldorf education. So that was a good reason for us to pursue the thinking. Emily and I both have some Waldorf teacher training. This school's kind of been our base community for the last decade. We both spent time teaching. I tried my hand as a class teacher. Got cured of that in a year. But still like being around the kids. I like this relationship with them better. God bless the teachers. I don't know how they do it. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so biodynamic practices include inoculating. There's a series of 8 different preparations, they call them, homeopathic medicines really for earth and plant. So the compost is inoculated with the compost preparations, which are all plant-derived homeopathic inoculants that help balance the nutrients as the biomass decomposes. We actually gave my first formal biodynamics lecture last night. Had 5 people come, including Emily. There's a real opportunity. It's a very thick and rich world of thought. Not easy to talk about without sounding like a nutcase, but it is all based in science. It does have a spiritual component. Oftentimes you get trapped when you start talking about it. You start sounding like you're off in fairyland. So the real art is to be poetic, to speak as this one guy that I'm studying. He says, Steiner speaks in a world of pictures. So you've got to learn to speak like a poet with the exactitude of a scientist. So, I mean, that's really the true nature of what the work represents. It's got the poetic beauty to it, but it is all anchored in the scientific realm, and it's a very strong system of thought, but very rich and complex and hard to talk about. And I feel like after 4 years of delving into this work, I begin to get an inkling, and I feel like I could actually start a farm now. I've got just enough information to do that. So.
Is there a way that you could basically talk about what's in it? What you guys
Well,
compost?
what we're doing is we are on this farm using as the base for our compost horse manure. The reason that we're doing that is because it's what's available in our area. We are surrounded by horse properties. We have a gentleman who has, he delivers as much horse manure as I want for free. That's really the bottom line of why we use horse manure as the base. If we had cow operations in the neighborhood, we'd be using that. Just the reality of the microorganisms and the way that the cow's digestive system works, a whole different story, a much richer product. It's the premium and the desired base, but we don't have it, and I can't afford to buy it. So this is what we use in combination with whatever's coming out of the field as we transition crops and weeds and things. And then we also are incorporating some straw in there as a carbon source. We're using these windrows. It's actually a layered methodology, inoculated with the biodynamic preps and set to age. In the biodynamic world, they don't turn their compost piles. It's more of a fermentation process over time. I'm trying to stay true to that. I usually end up panicking halfway through and start turning this stuff. So this is 4 months. I haven't touched it, so I'm going to see what happens. Yet another experiment.
Are you using Bokashi?
I'm not using EM. I like EM. I respect EM, but and I've used it in the past in my landscaping operations. But when we began doing this operation, I didn't know biodynamics, and I never worked with it before. And the biodynamic preparations, some of them have a similar orientation. The goals are the same. The way you get there is similar. The way that the preparations are derived is where the difference lies from EM.
But you're still doing anaerobic decon, more like
Exactly.
fermentation.
Exactly.
Actually aerobic.
Yeah, similar principle in that way. So I was just trying to, go, well, if I start using EM and I'm using the biodynamics, how do I know what's working and how? So kind of trying to stick to a fairly pure line of thought and make my mistakes in one arena.
Is all of your food grown biodynamically, or do you have to spray for pesticides, or what do you?
Well, I mean, even within the biodynamic world, until you hit the balance, you've got to do some intervention. So I'll still end up using some intervention products, say for soap, some neem oil once in a while. Try to use a lot of garlic and cayenne this year on my aphids and some problems. I haven't reached the balance point, in my soil health. This year we kind of fell off the face of the earth. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden we had weed issues that we'd never had before. New types of weeds or weeds that have been here in moderate numbers all of a sudden were prolific. And like I said, my health was not good. The soil's health was not good. I thought, what's the cause and what's the effect? So everybody was tired, and it's forced me to, or allowed me, if you want to look at it that way, to really spend time like hitting the books and filling in some gaps in my thinking and reviewing, really reflecting on what we're doing and what's not going well, and just puzzling it out. So I've been doing a lot of work with compost tea this summer, in that kind of towards that end, and trying to doctor our soils back to health.
Has it been difficult managing the fertility? Because on a space this size, you've got to grow so intensively.
Well, that is it. I thought we were doing our job. I really felt like we were doing justice. It's certainly on our mind, soil. But what I found out is that, we've been depleting our soil as much as I try not to. So we're really up in the ante. Been doing an incredible amount of work with the compost tea and inoculating that soil. And I'm beginning to see some good results. Doing a lot more sheet composting mid-season, towards the end of the season now. Just trying to keep that soil covered, straw, compost, inoculate as we go down the road. But yeah, that's the challenge. I do think it's possible to farm a small piece of land consistently for 1,000 years. I do believe that that's true, but not the way I've been doing it. So I'm, live and learn.
Yeah, it might take you 10 years to figure out how to do it. So.
Well, that's it. The Chinese had a saying when I was studying Tai Chi. My teacher would go, "Hey, the Chinese say if it doesn't take you 15 years, it's not even worth looking at." So. Well, we do technically have a rototiller now, but we haven't used it. So we've been doing turning forks, and now this year we went and got a broad fork out. We're really working more towards less invasive procedures as we go. As I begin to really delve into the world of that microflora and all the goodness down there, trying to respect that microorganism growth that's taking place. We're getting closer to no-till in our philosophy and practice.
Do you know if the horses are eating Bermuda grass?
That's what this other question was.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't hear.
Yeah, I don't think.
They were, because
I guarantee it here.
they don't. Those seeds don't break down in the compost, from what I understand.
Right. I hear what you're saying. I don't think that, from what I'm seeing, it's not an introduction of new seed material that's our main problem. It's the rhizomous nature of the Bermuda that's killing me.
Right.
Not that there's not some new seed growth here. I'm breeding it nicely. interesting is all of a sudden this year there was just this incredible outbreak of that particular weed. And you know, you might just say, well, it's just that, you know, we've set enough seed through mismanagement or, you know, not being able to keep it under control adequately. But you know, the train of thought that I'm using now and looking at our weed populations is that, you know, they're one of our teachers. So, you know, that particular weed is really notorious for growing in depleted soil situations. So, you know, that's you know, an indicator to me that we need to do some remediation. That's the way I've been trying to look at the weeds, as learning instruments, you know, indicators of where we are. So.
How many different peppers are you growing right now?
We have about 3 left alive in the field.
That's below your record.
Our peppers, I mean, yeah, historically we had really good luck with peppers. We lost all but a handful of sweets. Everything's really failed pretty well this summer.
That sums it up.
We got a handful of jalapenos, a handful of serranos, a handful of habaneros, some of this New Mexican hot pepper, which is a new one. A little bit of Anaheim still going, a handful of bells, but really we lost a lot of our crop. It was a hard summer. We had 600 tomato plants we put out in the spring this year. Curly leaf virus came through like a wildfire. We lost about 85% of our tomatoes right off the bat. They just fell one after another due to the virus problem. But, you know, that allowed us a lot of opportunity under the shade, so we experimented with growing some of our fall stuff a little early. We've actually got kale that we're harvesting right now. We've been managing, because of this shade, we've managed to get this nice spicy mescaline mix. We grow it through the summer, you know, which is pretty amazing for our region. We seeded out some carrots early as an experiment to see how we could manage that under the shade.
You take the shade down for the winter?
Yeah, we'll take it off somewhere November.
What percentage?
This is 40%. It seems to work pretty well. If I was going to do it again, I might actually. It's hard because in the middle of the summer, I think the 40% is about perfect. You know, now the sun's hitting a little more southward. The angles are a little bit different. The intensity is not quite the same. And if I could have a 30% up there right now, I would. What are you going to do?
No, that's nice because it's forcing you to be creative because nobody else around here has kale yet. Like nobody else has got mescaline.
Well, that's it. We tried to, you know, make lemonade or out of our lemons. Is that how they say it? You know, we lost our tomato crops. That was painful, but it left us a lot of space and room to try to be creative with the situation that was at hand. So. Thank you. You keep trying to throw me compliments. Unfortunately, as I understand it, grubs are attracted to Bermuda grass.
Bermuda just sucks all the time.
Yeah. Trying to let crops come to fruition and do their work, and the other time you always have new beds opening up and we have to make some pretty hard choices sometimes. So I ended up ripping out a lot of pepper plants that were just on their last legs anyway.
It's great for rain.
Cowpeas and buckwheat. We had an early succession of summer squash. Did real well. And then we planted that in a cover crop for not quite as long as I would have liked to have left it in. But I'm planning for our second succession of fall crops will come in about 3 weeks. So this last week we turned this under, let it decompose, get it ready for planting. We've been doing a lot of work with, like I said, with soil inoculation. So I've been doing a lot of light compost covering on some of these dormant beds. Really working with inoculating them with the compost tea and other of the biodynamic preps, and then getting that straw on there, just keeping those moisture levels up. We've been so blessed this year with the rain. It's really helped us a lot, I think, in trying to recover from some of the shortcomings that we were experiencing.